Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Sports. We are officially live. Rassie Erasmus has named his first Springbok squad for the year, and as usual, always a blockbuster call, always a selection that makes us all sort of scratch our heads and takes us by surprise. And this week, Rassie Erasmus has named Quine Horn at number 10 for the Boks against the Barbarians, a player who's only gotten one cap for the Boks at 15. A player who's never really played for 10 at the Lions, let alone at the Boks, will get an opportunity to impress Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff in the number 10 jersey this weekend. Also, a first opportunity for Riley Norton to get a chance in the green and gold with a call-up to the starting lineup in the number 4 jersey. Apart from that, pretty straightforward selections. Carly Sardi coming straight into the side, getting an opportunity in a position where we need to try and add a bit of depth at tight head. You've also got starts for an Andre Hugo Venter, as well as a Grant Williams, who is fit and firing into the starting lineup as well. And apart from that, a very experienced starting 15. And then off the bench, a couple of new faces, including Paul de Villiers, who will get his first opportunity for the Boks off the bench. Zachary Porth and Tuko Xunu, the two props on the bench. JJ Kotze getting opportunity as well. Faf de Klerk back into the mix. It is a 6-2 split from Rassie Erasmus, and Vusi Moyo is the other backline, or the replacement fly half on the bench, with no Malibok named across either the SAA or the Springbok side. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Get into the comments and let me know what you think of the call that Rassie Erasmus has made, because this is what this team looks like. So let's go through it, shall we? And we're going to go through this, and then we'll and then look at the SAA side separately. So 1 through to 15, Oxen Chair, Andre Hugo Venter, Carly Sardi in the front row. I'm very excited to see what Carly Sardi in particular can do, because I think he's a player who should have been on the Boks list a while back, had I think his career lived up to the expectations. And to be honest, I think if he hadn't left the Lions, where things were going so well for him, then also might have been a bit quicker to have gotten this call-up. But he does get a start, and it's a position where we've lost Asenate and Tlabakanya. There's no Frans Moherbe in the horizon. There's no Trevor Nyakar in the horizon. Obviously, no Vilkolo or Thomas Totoy this weekend, which kind of shows you that it's a position we need to build depth. And Zach Porthen coming off the bench will be a good addition. And then, interestingly, Locke as well is a position of worry. There were rumors that Lourdes Diaga was the reason that RJ Smith has been called up. We didn't expect to see Eben Etzebeth in the side, and as a result, Riley Norton will get a chance, and very, very keen to see how he goes, and whether he can live up to the billing of the leadership sort of side of things. The question is now, can he hack it from a playing perspective at this sort of level? Franco Mostert will be next to him, so all the experience in the world he's needed, as well as our usual loose trio of Siya Kolisi in the captain's jersey, Peter Steph the toy, and Jasper Wiese. So much experience around the likes of a Franco Mostert, a Riley Norton, a Riley Norton, a Carly Sardi, and Andre Hugo Venter. Then in the back line, how's this for a selection? Grant Williams next to Quine Horn, who I'm busy trying to find out. I can't find a game where he has started at 10 for professional rugby. I'm looking at all the different stats. I can't remember a time when he started at 10 for the Lions, which I watch a lot of. But how exciting is that for as a selection? And very interesting in terms of his chance of going to the World Cup next year, because if he thrives in this position, that means that all of a sudden he covers 15, 14, 11, as well as 10. And that is a huge array of positions to be able to add in a Boks squad where they love a 6-2, a 7-1 split. If you can suddenly cover 3-4 positions, then you are absolute gold for the Boks. And I think in that perspective, it's a very interesting and a very exciting selection. Edel van der Merwe, Ches and Colby, the back three. I mean, when I looked at the squad, I was initially almost disappointed to see Fassi in the 15 jersey, not because I don't like to see Fassi playing, because I really wanted to see Horn get a go against the Barbarians. Little did I know he would have been in the number 10, but what a back three that is. And then Andre Esterhuizen and Jesse Creel, arguably the top pairing we have. Damien Delende under genuine serious pressure from Andre Esterhuizen with regards to the kind of form he showed last year. So if we then look at the replacements, JJ Kotze, Tuko Xunu, Zach Porthen, it is an all-stormers front row, which I think is quite important. I mentioned that in my predicted side, that I think we would have seen a All Stormers front row. I kind of had it as Andre Hugo Venter with those two and then starting, but Rassie Erasmus had different plans. We then got Ben Jason Dixon, Paul de Vries, Evan Ruiz, Faf de Klerk and Vusi Moyo. So plenty of Stormers players on that bench. Good to see Faf de Klerk back in the mix. And I think Vusi Moyo, I'm excited to see what he can do. Not necessarily your Moin Liebach type flower, but very solid player, good defensively, tactically kicking very good goal kicker as well, very accomplished from that perspective. And I think big opportunities here for particularly a Ben Jason Dixon and Evan Ruiz, two players who have had opportunities in the Boks jersey, but I don't think's really impressed. And I think that this is an opportunity for them to do exactly that, is to go out and impress the Boks coaching staff. Something like a Paul de Villiers, he's obviously also wants to impress, but he's kind of new to the environment. So there won't be as much pressure for him to deliver right off the bat. And speaking about the selections, Rassie Erasmus has said the following. He says, we said from the outset that we wanted to give a few players returning from injury and others who have been playing overseas game time in this match, while at the same time exposing some of the younger players on our radar to top-class international rugby, and we believe this squad reflects these objectives. We have been very impressed with the way the new players have jumped straight into action and grasped our systems and structures, and we are excited to see what they can do alongside some of our regular Springbok players as we build for what will be a challenging season with the Nations Championship and rugby's greatest rivalry series approaching. Then spoke a little bit about the Barbarians, but I mean, initial thoughts are not too many surprises to a certain degree, but I think as per usual, we're getting a good balance between young players, new players, and also getting the other players a hit out. I'm really excited to see what Franco Mostert brings on Saturday. I'm really excited to see what Andre Esterhuizen, really sort of ramps up. I'm excited to see what Apelele Fassi does, given the fact that now he'll know he's got pressure, not only obviously from Damien Willemse, who's the incumbent, but now you've got Quine Horn, who's there's an experiment going, which obviously means he's in the plans. And Apelele Fassi might be a little bit nervous about the fact that maybe this suddenly could put a Quine Horn ahead of him. So these are players fighting for a World Cup spot. Riley Norton potentially maybe could be a dark horse for a World Cup spot if he suddenly goes and has an absolutely tremendous game. That is how big this potential game could be for these players. And on that note, I mean, it's early on in the season, but it's an opportunity that these players have that the other players don't have to really sort of say, well, here we go. How's it? I'm here. They get the first crack at impressing the coaches. Now, no one's going to suddenly start dropping a Andre Pollard because Quine Horn has a good game at 10, for example. That's not necessarily going to happen. But if some of these players do sort of step up and do have really strong games, then all of a sudden, they put themselves in the framework. And it's a difficult framework to get into. It really, really is, because this is a Springboks management that is so organized, that is so far ahead with their planning. And I think what we're going to see is a situation where, unless there are show-stopping performances, I think most of the teams will kind of be what the Boks management have kind of already sort of set. They'll have an idea of the kind of players they want to use, the kind of teams they're going to have throughout the season. It's not really a situation where they are waiting to sort of see what happens on Saturday to name the rest of their side. But injuries play a role, and at the moment you've got a Sash Famagomzulu, for example, currently injured. You've got a Andre Pollard who didn't have, let's call it a spade, didn't have a very good game against Glasgow in that semi-final. So I don't think that Quine Horn could play himself into a World Cup fly half berth. But if Sasha doesn't really come back from injury strongly, if Andre Pollard isn't in particularly good form, and we're going with the Moin Liebach to the World Cup, and obviously you'll probably take one of the or two of them, but you've got a Quine Horn who can really potentially fulfill that role, then there is a possibility of him maybe forcing him into the equation. Riley Norton's a player as well. It's a position at lock where we're worried about some of the age profiles. We're a little bit worried about whether some of these players are going to make it to the World Cup. And he's got an opportunity to say that maybe he's ready. Zach Porthen was drafted in. He basically, I think, got his first professional start for the Boks. He never even started for the Stormers in a professional games at the URC level, for example, when he got that opportunity last year. So again, the Boks aren't afraid of kind of rolling the dice when it comes to sort of some of those selections. So I'm going to put a bit of a poll up in the thing and say, do you like the Springbok side? Yes, simple yes, no. I'm going to get to all the comments, but we've also got an SAA side to get through. And I want to start getting through that as well. Before I do, please do smash a like on the video, but also please do consider becoming a part of the members club. And K3 Andy is one of our core members. He's in our Legends Lounge, in fact, in our newly launched WhatsApp community. And ahead of this weekend, we are going to be dropping some very cool stuff onto that WhatsApp community. Some hopefully a bit of exclusive stuff, a bit of a sneak peek as to what we've got planned for the season ahead. And to be able to be part of that, you've got to be part of the members club. And they basically really help us ramp up our coverage. So whilst you guys are watching and hitting that like button and the likes of that, please do consider becoming a member. It really isn't a particularly big monetary amount, but it does go a very, very long way. So a big shout out to all of those who are part of the members club. And please do consider becoming a member as well. Going through some of the comments, and then I want to go through the SAA side, and then we'll basically really kind of dig into all of this. And obviously we're going to have the words from Rassie Erasmus, Wandile Stick as well coming up on the channel as well. But let's go some of the comments. And K3 Andy, who is one of our members, says, let's go. Quan Horn at 10 is so left field, but the boy is great value. Josh says, has Horn ever played more than 3 games at 10? Well, I can't find a single game in the URC where he's played at 10, started. And I would be lying to you if I can remember a game at a Currie Cup level, for example, where he's played at 10. So it is definitely a pretty big call to make. And making a good point there, saying he's anticipating Fassi to kick for poles. Andre Esterhuizen obviously also can kick for poles. So that's an interesting thing. I think in terms of why we're going with Quan Horn at 10, we haven't gotten exactly a reason as to why Mani Libbok is not playing. My assumption is either they didn't mention he's injured, maybe picked up a bit of a knock, or maybe they want to rest him. I think that they see Quan Horn as a World Cup option, more so than they probably see a Vusi Moyo, a Yakin Ahmed, for example. And I think what we're also seeing for it is Damian Willems is shifting away from being a 10 option and being more of a 12-15 option, and potentially maybe even wing option. But now what we've got to think about, if we're going to the World Cup and you think about taking your utility players, I think Quan Horn is up there with Apele Fassi. I genuinely do. And that's not a hate for Fassi. I just think Quan Horn's been that good. So I think at the moment they're quite similar type of in terms of the rankings where they can get to. Apele Fassi at the moment's got the inside track and had a very strong season last year. Damian Willems is still a number 1 choice, 15. But if you go into a World Cup, there could potentially be more valuable in a Quan Horn at ahead of Fassi if he can go at 10. Apele Fassi has actually run a few times at 10. So it's very interesting that they've gone with Horn ahead of Fassi in this experiment, because they could have easily gone the other way. And I'm quite surprised in many ways that they didn't kind of go that way. But Rassie has got a plan. And I think Tony Brown would be my guess, has a big influence about that, because I think he is somebody who's come in and very much then decided, yeah, this player is somebody I want to see at 10. This is somebody I want to see in this position, the likes of it, within how he wants to see his play. So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, obviously, we're just speculating. We're going to hear a bit from Rassie Erasmus exactly why he's gone with those sort of decisions in a bit. And the press conference is happening as we speak, and we'll have it up on the channel. It's always up first. We know if you want to make sure you get the first person to hear what Rassie Erasmus is cooking then make sure you check out the channel, because we do always have our stuff up very, very quickly to make sure you guys are always as informed as possible. So when you guys are in your WhatsApp groups and you guys are having your conversations and debates and the likes of that, we like to make sure that you guys can have a bit of an edge on that. And moving forward, as I said, the WhatsApp community is exactly where you want to be if you want to get that kind of inside knowledge and in early drops and the likes of that as well. But yeah, get into the comments. I'm going to go through the SAA side in a bit, and then we're going to really kind of get through all of this, and really excited to see what everybody has to say. At the moment, 85% of the people are saying that they like the Springbok squad out of 146 votes. For those of you who haven't said yes, why? Why don't you like it? So I'm going to get you got the time now to get into that, because let's get into an SAA side, shall we? Because we've got a double team job, which is making life very, very interesting at the moment. Right, that is your SAA team that Zwandile Stick has named. He is the coach for this weekend, and we'll basically head up the SAA side and then jump into the Springbok coaching box for the Barbarians game. And a very interesting side that has been named, and quite predictable in terms of the players in the 23, I guess, to a certain degree. Some of the combinations are interesting. The captain's pick, for example, is quite interesting. And what's, for me, the most interesting is seeing some senior players down on the SAA side, and how much can we read into that? You know, is this a case of somebody like Ilakanya being named in at 12? What is the thinking behind this? So let's go through this SAA side that has been named. So 1 through to 15, Bowen Venter, Sibisito, Minimbalele, and Netling for Sheer. Bowen Venter, capped Springbok, is a regular in the side last year. He's in the SAA side. Now, does that indicate that he's maybe now down to a third choice? Or is it a case of they like the experience that he brings to the side? Who knows? I like the fact that you've got two very experienced players. Netling for Sheer might not be experienced at an international level, but he's a very experienced campaigner. So you've got those two next to him, Mbalele, who I think is incredibly talented, and in a position where we really need to see somebody step up. I'm excited to see what he can do. Once again, we're talking about a lock crisis. Well, Vincent Tuka has been named in the number 4 jersey. He's also been given the captain's armband. Now, he's a player who I thought was not quite unfairly, but weirdly omitted last year from a couple of the squads. When I looked at some of the players who were retained and he was kind of let go, I was almost a bit surprised, because I thought when he had played for the Boks, he had really strong games. And I don't think he let anybody down across some of the games that he did have. So it's really good to see he's been given a leadership role, because I think he's got a big role to play. But also equally interesting that he's in the number 4 jersey. Ruan Venter was somebody that they wanted to try out. So they're definitely looking at the kind of lock convert into the number 4, because I just don't think the number 4s across the country have really stood up to the degree where the Bok management are happy with what they're kind of seeing. Ruben van Heerden dropped into the squad last week, gets to start in the number 5 jersey. You then got Emmanuel Tuka, Batabile Hlekani, and Pepsi Buthelezi. It's a really, really good loose trio. It's dynamic. It's a physical pack. You've got Chatuka, Van Heerden, Chatuka ×2 big players. Hlekani's a big player. Interesting, because you could have got him at number 4. You could have gotten and Chatuka to 7, for example. You could have basically just swapped those two out. So it's an interesting decision to have gone that kind of route. We then look at the 9-10 combination. Hashim P starting, I don't think is actually that big of a shock when you think that he's so highly rated by the Boks, and he's been in a Boks squad before. Nico Steyn has obviously started ahead of him from a Lions point of view, and I think that we need to be very... I think we need to be rational when it comes to Hashim P's development, for example, where he's come from, what his situation is, and the opportunities he's going to get, because he is a tremendously talented player. But he's also a player who I think has got a lot of work on. Now, I think him starting for the Boks next to Yakin Ahmed is a really big opportunity for him to show what he's all about. And I'm really excited to see how he takes that opportunity. Because I think the reason he hasn't quite gotten it as much as he'd probably maybe like, for example, at the Lions, also bear in mind he's 21 years old, is the fact that he is a bit of a live wire scrum off, but doesn't quite have the tactical news that maybe Nico Steyn has, who's on the bench. But Yakin Ahmed for me is somebody who I'm really, really excited to watch. Like if we're going to look at our top 5 players who for this weekend to keep an eye on, I think he's one of my top ones, because he's a player who looks a different level. And that's what Hashim Pete, for example, looked at an under 20 level. He looked at a different level. And I'm really keen to see how he goes in the environment, because it's a position where we've obviously got much more depth than last World Cup, but we're always looking at kind of the next generation. Zekatelo Sidiaya has looked so comfortable at professional rugby that I think he's in for a big game. Yako Williams, as we all know, has got lots of pace. Leon Galume is somebody who has made the move from the Sharks to the Bulls. They really, really highly rate him. And then obviously you've got Marcus Muller as one of the most exciting sort of schoolboy talents in the last few years. Very, very highly rated. And he's next to one of the greatest centers we've ever produced in Lekanya. I think this is now or never for Lekanya. He hasn't been in the best of form in the last couple of years. He hasn't been in the form that he was pre-2023 World Cup. But we know there's a player in there. So I think this is one of his last opportunities to really show what he's all about. If we look at the replacements, Liam van Wyk, Oliver Reed, Hanro Jacobs, it's a very young front row. Hanro Jacobs, the more experienced one over there. You then got Ardre Smith, the very exciting Siba Mahashe, Nico Stade, Imad Khan, and Lorenzo Julius. So we've got 2 scrum halves on the bench there. That's an immediate thing that you'll kind of notice with Nico Stade and Imad Khan. Nico Stade can play a 10. And I think that is potentially what we might see. So once again, we might even see a surprise call at 10 in the SAA side. And Lorenzo Julius, I wouldn't say, if I were to do the video about the biggest losers, biggest winners, I find the fact that he's on the bench behind a Marcus Miller, he'll be frustrated by that. He'll really be upset, given the fact that I think at one stage he was really coming through strongly and looking good for a potential debut. And now he's kind of fallen behind on the pecking order. So a big opportunity for him to hopefully get on the park nice and early and show what he's all about. But Marcus Muller is an exciting talent. He kind of looks a bit generational, and that's what they're kind of doing with these players who look at different level, coming from school level. They want to get them involved as quickly as possible so they can kind of get them playing to a point where they're kind of ready for international rugby as soon as possible. This is Project 2031 talking. It's not even 2027. This is Project 2031 talking. And this SAA side is going to be a lot of the players who we're hopefully going to see on the radar come 2031 and 2035. So there's so much to sort of pick apart and go through here. I'm kind of sort of deciding where to begin. And I've actually got a bit of news from you. So Rassie Erasmus has basically likened Quine Horn to Willie Leroux, which, again, if you're Quine Horn, that's the kind of person you want to be likened to in Rassie Erasmus's mind, because, Rassie Erasmus loves Willie and has got so much good things to say, for example, that I think that when you get that kind of comparison, it shows you that I don't think that this is just a one-off experiment. What can he do? I think this is quite genuinely looking at an option here. And that's what I'm saying. I think that they might be looking at a Quine Horn as a potential World Cup option with this number 10 backing. Because basically what he says is that he's a playmaker. That whilst he might not be wearing the number 10 on the back of his jersey, that's the role he plays. He is a playmaker on the field. And as a result, they want to give him a go. So, because obviously that's going to be the selection that's going to really cause a lot of the, not confusion, but the debate. And Rassie Erasmus obviously sees something there that he wants to try out. And I'm here for it. At the end of the day, I'll never really doubt what the Springboks are trying to do, because there's always such a clear plan from them. And as a player who I really rate, and I think that he's got Springbok written all over him in many Springbok games, I'm just so excited that he gets not only the recognition in the start, but he's getting the recognition in that they're looking at this is a proper player for the future. This is not just a one-off, what can he do? But this is potentially how he gets integrated into the squad. This could potentially be his role moving forward, the Willie Leroux, player who can serve on the bench as more than just a 15. You know, we're talking about a player that you could then have as a, if you got Andre Pollard starting, we always talked about how you then had to have Willie Leroux on the bench or at 15 to be able to provide that creativity. Well, maybe this is a similar kind of scenario. Maybe you look at a Vusi Moya, for example, and how in the second half you could have a Vusi Moya coming on as well as a Quan Horn moving to full back, and then you kind of got your two playmaker options. And how much of a difference can that make to somebody like a Vusi Moya to have a Quan Horn who's got the measure of the game as a second option from a playmaker point of view? So there really are so many different positives really coming out of all of this. And I mean, it's easy to look at selections like, you know, your back three and say, oh, well, this is a bit boring. But we've got to look at what we have, and we've got to look at then what the sort of the purpose is over here of this weekend. And I think we very clearly, obviously, wanting to rest a few players, but also very clearly want to give some other players a chance. I'm just trying to make sure that the press conference is uploading correctly for you guys, that you guys have got. So yeah, all's good, looking good. So yeah, I mean, you don't ask, you can ask me all the questions you want, but Rassie Erasmus is the best person to answer any of those, and the press conference will be up very, very shortly. So get your questions in, and I'll try and answer some of them. Let's do a bit of a Q&A type of vibe, and that might be a bit of a better way than to try to just keep giving you guys my thoughts on what my takeaways from the squad. Give me your questions and let me know what you think the best or the interesting selections are. And let's go through who we got over here. This says, who will be kicking for the Barbars? You're talking about for the Barbarians themselves or for the Boks? Yeah, probably. I mean, let's go back to our Springbok side. I think Apele Fassi is an option. Quan Horn, I think, can kick for goals. Hasn't really had to for the Lions. But that's an also thing. Just as much as Rassie was saying that just because he doesn't wear 15 doesn't mean that, you know, he's not a playmaker. I suppose just because he hasn't been kicking for goal for the Lions, because he doesn't need to, doesn't mean he can't. Other takeaways from the press conference, just by the way, a couple of news updates, is Eben will be ready for England. Lewis is a bit of a maybe for England. And when they did the Springbok test, by the way, interestingly enough, Paul de Villiers came out on top, the top performer in the fitness tests from a Springbok point of view. So that's quite an interesting thing there as well. But get your questions in, and let's kind of really try and sort of stick into this. So hey man says, I love corner 10. He's never played at a pro level yet, but I know he'll be fantastic. They've said, if I like the SA team, I prefer Lorenzo over Marcus. Tanner2, who's up on the stream yesterday as well, welcome back, saying Rassie always seems to rotate but never changes the back row. And that's to answer your question. Even Etzebeth not fit for this weekend. Ali says, is Moya being groomed to be Pollard replacement in the future? Big, quick, and reliable kicker. I think he is quite in the Andre Pollard mold. I think Yakeem Ahmed's probably a bit more exciting from a running fly half point of view. I also saw somebody join the members club earlier. I'm pretty sure I did. Welcome, Sean Nederman, to the Legends Lounge. We'll add you to the WhatsApp group. We've been having a lot of conversations over the next couple of days there in our WhatsApp group. Also going to be giving you guys exclusive look at our new platform that we are launching, as well as an exclusive My Picks League for our Legends Lounge, our different members levels. So big welcome to Sean, who's just joined the Legends Lounge, and please, everybody else watching, please do consider joining the members club and joining the Forever Sports community. Lots of cool perks and stuff coming. We're going to take you with us when we go to our different locations around the country, and you guys will be front and center within that community. Obviously, we'll still have our normal content as we always do, but big shout out to our members, and our big push for us is to give our members as many benefits and perks as possible. So I've said quite a lot about Quan Horn and Flav to Jaden. So if you want to maybe scroll back, I don't really want to go too much into it again. I think it's a very good experiment, and I'm keen to sort of see if he goes well, whether we might see him retained in a wider squad. Because this for me is going to be the interesting part. Obviously, a lot of these players are going to be in the SAA and Springbok squad. We are going to see a brand new squad come Sunday. when Rassie Erasmus trims this down and he brings in the players from the Bulls, he brings in players like a Thomas du Toit, players from overseas who are not available for this weekend. So things are going to change quite a bit come Sunday within the squad. And I think that if Quan Horn goes well on Saturday, then I think he will remain part of the squad, which I would really like to see. And I think that the more I'm hearing about Rassie Erasmus basically speaking about it, the more I'm thinking is quite a strong possibility. And Seeker Thomas says, not to second guess the doc, but we've all watched Quan Horn over the years, and I'm sure none of us have seen a Willie Leroux. Even Willie Leroux shouldn't play 10 for the Boks, unnecessary from Russ. Oh, I don't think he's looking at a fly half option. I don't think we're going to see Quan Horn starting at fly half in the World Cup final. But what we are going to see is a player who is a fullback, but can he step into that role? In a 7-1 split, if we lose our fly half, can he step into that role? If he were starting at fullback, for example, or if he was on the bench, we had Willie Leroux on the bench and we didn't have a scrum off. Could he be that role? So, yes, it's an unorthodox selection, as Rassie Erasmus likes to do. But there's always method to the madness. And from that perspective, I think we'll get more information on it this weekend. But some of the other selections, I think, obviously it's not too much to go through in terms of an interesting selection. I think Carly Sardi's got an opportunity to impress. Again, I think Evan Roos is someone you've got to think this is your chance. You really got to try and bang the door down, because otherwise Cameron Hanekom, Albert Lowe, they're both arriving from the Bulls come Sunday for that number 8 jersey. And once he becomes 4th, 5th choice, I think he's kind of lost his opportunity to go to the World Cup. If he can come on the second half of this weekend and have an absolute stormer and really knock the walls down, then I think maybe he can potentially try and prove something around to the Boks. But I think that he's in a bit of pressure. I think Ben Jason Dixon is someone who didn't take his chances with the Boks last year particularly well. And, can he now impress? I think Paul de Villiers is going to be part of that wider squad. I think he's a genuine Springbok in making, because obviously none of these players are going to be capped after Saturday. This doesn't count as a cap. It's an uncapped game. So these are not going to be Springboks. The likes of Carly Sardi won't be considered a Springbok. Ryan Norton won't be considered a Springbok. Who else here has not made an official debut? Paul de Villiers will not be considered a Springbok. JJ Kotze will not be considered a Springbok. Vusi Moyo not be considered a Springbok, because this is not a test match. But some of these players are definitely going to be in the squad come the Nations Championship. And, you might not see necessarily them at against an England, but I think you're going to see some of these players against a Wales and a Scotland. Come the All Blacks, then we're going to see our proper whittled down squad for those sort of 4 tests. Although, again, the 4 tests, so we might see a bit of a wider squad as well. But I don't think you're going to see a JJ Kotze at this stage in the All Black squad, for example. I don't think that Evan Roos is really there. If there's no injuries, I don't think Faf de Klerk's really there. Vusi Moyo probably not there. Touch and go whether Quan Horn is there. Ryan Norton won't be there, I don't think. I don't think Carly Sardi is going to be there. So those are the players who are probably under the most inverted commas pressure this weekend, because I don't think that they're necessarily going to be part of the long-term plans, or even the short-term plans. And long-term being the World Cup, not longer-term being after that. So I think that this weekend, what my big hope for this weekend, and this is the big thing, is that the Barbarians give us a game. I really want to see them pitch up and give us a test. Because I think last year we didn't get that at the end of the day. They didn't really push the Boks. They didn't really put out much of a fight. And we didn't, and as a result, we didn't really get much information. We saw a couple of players who stepped up, but I don't think we got the kind of information that we wanted to get. I don't think there's a situation where the players who played well last year in the Barbarians have kind of boosted their profile because the Barbarians are so poor. So my real big wish for this weekend is that we get a test, that the Barbarians pitch up and push us. And it's funny because if that happens and we maybe don't win by a lot of us might just say immediately, oh, we didn't play well. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. I just think if the Barbarians can put up a fight and we can kind of be put under pressure and then, put out a good performance, then hopefully that gives us a bit more confidence, and hopefully it gives more information about the types of players who stood up during that period and elevated their profile within the squad. Because we don't have a lot of chances to rotate this year. We've got lots of games, but they're blockbuster. They really are blockbuster. We've got England, Scotland, Wales now coming up. You don't want to underestimate and lose to Scotland. England is a team we'll go full strength against. So Wales is your only initial team right now from a test match point of view where we can rotate. Then we go four tests against the All Blacks. You're not going to rotate really against them. Yes, you might rotate within the Boks squad, but we're not going to go and give out random debuts to players who are kind of on the fringes to see what they can do. I don't think. Maybe if we go 3-0 up, maybe we might rotate for Baltimore. Who knows? Then at the end of the year, obviously we've got Australia. We've got a once-off test against Argentina as well. That Argentina test will be interesting because I'm really hoping that they're not going to take players involved in the greatest rivalry tour so that we can see a full-strength Lions side take on the All Blacks. Somebody like a Quan Horn needs to be in that Lions side to play against the All Blacks. Hopefully Inker van Wyk is going to be fit for that as well. We're going to see I hope probably rotate aside against Australia when we go for that one-off test. That's another opportunity to rotate. So you kind of got Wales, Australia, maybe Italy when we go overseas, but we've got Italy, France, Ireland, and then the final. So whilst we've got so many different games, I don't think we necessarily have lots of opportunities to do mass rotation, which is why this SAA side is really, really important, because they will provide an opportunity for us to be able to get players into a system and get them out into a field. I would like to see us having more SAA games. I'd really like to see a two match series against the French Barbarians, for example, or play against a Chile or a Portugal or your sort of tier 2 nations a bit more often, because I think the SAA side is a team we haven't utilized as much as we could have. I mean, that's where Sasha started. He got that surprise call up a few years ago for the SAA side, and then was included in the Boks squad itself. So it's a really valuable team, but we don't get enough games out of it. And I think that it's going to be interesting to sort of see what the squad looks like on Sunday after we've got Bulls final on Friday, 2 games on Saturday, players coming in. And what I'm very interested to see is how we are going to see how big of a squad we're going to see come Sunday going into the Nations Championship. How many of them they are going to drop out? How many of them might continue within the side as well? So going to some of the comments over here. ELT says, surprised Liebach isn't in the team because I would assume him and Pollard are playing against England. Meaning he's coming into that game cold. And Neil making a good point, saying Colby will kick for Poles. Definitely an option. Kirk-Peter says, Rassie wants a playmaking 10 to unlock our deadly backline. We already know about Marnie. Marnie will start against England. I think he will. But with Sasha out, we need depth at 10, especially in the playmaking area. Aldi Tio saying, Siaya never played at 10 in his life either, but was selected at 10 for the Sharks in the second pro match. Some players transition between different roles. Well, it was the Boks who put Peter Steph the toy at 7. And that worked out pretty well. And the Boks will also apparently ask the Lions to run Ruan Fenter in the number 4 jersey. So they've definitely had a bit of influence over the years about where certain players and the likes of that are going to be involved. Very keen to sort of see what some of the other potential positional shifts might be. And obviously we're going to have the next couple of days to really sort of get into these teams and break them down and kind of go into the nitty-gritty of what the surprises are, what the surprises aren't. Because in many ways, that's also a big thing. I mean, we've not really spoken about too many other players, but I think somebody like a Franco Mostert is going to be under the microscope a bit this weekend with regards to, is he still playing at the level that we'd like him at? I think he is, personally. Lots of people said last year he's too old. I don't think I've seen him slowing down. I don't think we've seen him lose a yard of pace or, not hitting as many rucks as he usually does. But He is on the older profile sort of side. And as a result, down the line, come World Cup, I think he's still an option, but he needs to show that he is still an option. I think Andre Hugo Venter, for example, he's now in the driver's seat. Him and JJ Kotze, we've got a bit of a hooker crisis, in inverted commas, if Malcolm Mark's not fit. Bongi Benambi doesn't seem to really be part of the conversation anymore. Joseph Dweba didn't take his chances. Marnus van der Merwe has got a long-term injury. Jan-Hendrik Wessels is an option, but obviously not available this weekend. So I think that there are hooker places up for grabs. Marco Verstappen obviously is an option. Dion Faris is injured, so he's not an option. So there is where I think that players need to try and put their hands up at hooker. I think JJ Kotze is criminally underrated. I've always thought of him ahead of an Andre Hugo Venter. But those two got a big opportunity this weekend to put their hands up. Carly Sard's got an opportunity to put his hand up. You know, nobody else I don't think is really playing for places in the squad. Neville van der Merwe, I think, is already within our top three wings. You know, Ches and Colby currently answer right now top two, but the second one of them gets an injury. Edel van der Merwe slots right in. He's proven himself. He's kind of in that mold now. He's in that level. But another player I'm really excited about is Ntuka Unu, who is spoken very highly by Rassie Erasmus, and I think would have gotten lots of games last year were he fit, because he was continuously mentioned by Rassie Erasmus. He said, we've still got Tux who's injured and he's going to come back. And he then had a phenomenal season at the Stormers. So he's a player who, you know, missed out. I think all the caps that Bowen Venter got last year would have gone to Ntuka Unu had he been fit. Now Bowen Venter, now he's never really let us down. Now he needs to kind of prove that he's still valuable. I think what's really good for him is he'll be at the Lions next season, and you know, he'll be on sort of front and center every week for the coaching staff to watch. In terms of, I mean, it would have been nice to have seen JJ van der Mesh. He is obviously playing in the Prem, and as a result, he isn't available. But I think that he could very well get named in the wider squad come Sunday. I think we look at the lock crisis, and I think he's a player who's kind of gone a bit under the radar because he hasn't been part of the squad because he's over there trying to win a Prem title. But I think that he is a big candidate for that big number 4 jersey. We talked, somebody was asking, is this Riley have a reputation as an enforcer? Not really, but we've got a massive crisis at 4. We don't have number 4s in this country. You know, we've got RK Snyman is injured as an option there. Eben is injured. Loet Diaga's played there. He's injured. You know, we've now got Ruan Venter was going to be an option that wanted to play there. He's injured. Salma Rat is injured. That's 5 number 4 options not currently available. Kobus Wies is an option. He's not available. He's at the Bulls. Ruan Vermaak, I think, is a decent option. He's not available. He's at the Bulls this weekend as well. So that's 7 options. JJ van der Mesh, 8, also not available. So you could it could be in a situation where Ryan Norton could be considered our 8th choice, number 4. But that kind of shows you just how many options aren't available. So yes, he's going to get a chance this weekend. I don't think he's a candidate to play test against New Zealand, but if he has a strong game on Saturday, then he only elevates his profile. In terms of money, I haven't heard a confirmation about it, but he will. I think he will start against England. I think that again, this is a purely experimental thing. I'm not too worried about that either. And coming in Ellis Park, I'm expecting Money Bar to be in the number 10 jersey. I think he says Dweber's in the Prem final, so do not write him off. There's also Vessels there who can play hooker, so I'd really not call it a crisis. No, there are options, but Dweber's not ever taken that jersey and said, this is mine. Jan-Hendrik Wessels hasn't also taken that jersey and said, I can't be dropped as hooker. And that's what I'm saying. I think that it's a bit of an open season to try and get that second hooker spot, inverted commas. There's options. We know there's options. I mean, we've got 4 options this weekend. Which you know are all options that we don't really have on a week-to-week basis. But the question is, are they within that core group of the squad? No, they're not, and that's where I think people need to start taking their chances. You know, so yeah, Joseph Dweba goes and gets man of the match in the final on Saturday, then that elevates his profile. But I just don't know if they trust him, because he's been in and out of the squad and hasn't quite been able to lock down that jersey. And I'm a big Joseph Dweba fan, and I think it was a big loss to the Stormers. But it hasn't happened for him. at a Bok level, just like at Evan Roos, it hasn't happened to him at a Bok level. So we're going to sort of start wrapping up there, people. Thank you very much. It's been a really cool stream. Good to see a lot of people in on the mix, and love to see how many people love hearing all things Springboks. And yeah, big shout out to the new member, and please make sure that you do consider joining our members club. Get access to their WhatsApp community. Get access to our brand new platform built for Springbok fans, and they're going to have early testing and early looks at that hopefully this week before the weekend. We're going to have exclusive insights from the stadium, get a bit of stadium footage as well, and some of the stuff coming from man on the ground, all in our WhatsApp community. To gain access to that, please do consider becoming a member. It is the pinned comment over there, and we're really doing a lot of work to really up our membership offering this year, and hopefully the current members will show you that they've enjoyed, although we haven't been able to give them as much as we're going to give them so far in the early stages as we're kind of rolling it out. It is going to be a really cool initiative when we start to really get going on that WhatsApp community, and yeah, that's a big opportunity for them to get going. So thank you for joining me. We will have obviously more videos, your 5 winners, losers, and the likes of that over the next few days. We'll have a bit of a reaction as to what Rassie Erasmus is thinking and what to look forward to this weekend. I'm probably going to do a bit of a 5 things I'm looking at come Saturday. And that's going to be really exciting in terms of that's what I like to do when I want to watch games. I like to I almost like to ask questions. Can Quine Horn start a test at 10? It's a simple question. That's how I like to frame the game I'm going to watch on Saturday. Is Riley Norton a 4? That's the kind of question we can phrase. So that's what I like to do. If you're watching this retrospectively, get those kind of questions into the comments. And yeah, but apart from that, smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you everybody for joining me. Good to see lots of new faces in the chat, as well as our epic old ones who have been around here for many a year. We've got a big year ahead of us. It's going to be a lot of fun bringing you all the coverage. So make sure you subscribe so you get all the latest stuff, and we'll see you